They're calling it type 5 diabetes, and it's not like anything we've seen before. It doesn't begin in the pancreas, and it doesn't follow the rules of type 1 or type 2. This form attacks the body in a completely different way, and it may already be silently affecting millions who think they're just aging. Unlike traditional diabetes, type 5 shows no predictable glucose patterns, and sometimes no warning at all. Imagine your cells resisting not just insulin, but the entire signal to regulate energy. Now imagine this happening while all your blood work looks normal. This isn't science fiction. It's already being studied by leading researchers. And if it continues spreading, it could force us to completely rethink how we treat and even define diabetes itself. Hit like, subscribe, and let's go. For decades, we believed we understood diabetes. It was a battle between insulin and blood sugar, a disease of numbers. Type 1, where the body doesn't make insulin. Type 2, where the body resists it. And then there were others, gestational, LADA, MODY, variations, yes, but still within the same familiar framework. We created lifestyle programs, medications, dietary recommendations. We monitored glucose, counted carbs, adjusted doses. It felt like we had a handle on it. But something has shifted. In recent years, doctors around the world have started noticing patients who don't fit the model. People whose blood sugar levels fluctuate wildly, or barely change at all, yet they experience symptoms we normally associate with advanced diabetes. Neuropathy, vision loss, extreme fatigue, weight loss or gain without explanation, even organ stress. Their A1C, sometimes totally normal. Their fasting glucose, unremarkable, but the damage is real. More and more, these patients are being seen not just in hospitals, but in primary care clinics, nursing homes, and wellness centers. Some are misdiagnosed. Others are told it's just age. But a growing group of researchers believe we're looking at something new, something that doesn't respond to insulin resistance the way we expect. A possible fifth type, a type that may stem from cellular miscommunication, chronic inflammation, or even a breakdown in metabolic signaling itself. And if that's true, then the tools we've used for decades may no longer be enough. Because if you can't detect it in blood sugar, how do you catch it in time? And more importantly, how do you survive it? The first whispers of what scientists would later call type 5 diabetes began quietly, almost too quietly. Around 2016, metabolic researchers noticed unusual cases emerging in Europe and North America. Patients presenting with diabetic complications, but without the classic signs. No clear insulin resistance, no autoimmune markers, no consistent glucose spikes. Just a slow, silent breakdown of systems that couldn't be explained. At first, these cases were brushed off as misdiagnosed type 2, or perhaps rare genetic variants. But the numbers grew, steadily, then rapidly. By 2020, clinics across Japan and Germany reported clusters of patients who defied diagnostic logic. In the US, endocrinologists at major research hospitals like the Mayo Clinic and Johns Hopkins began to publish strange case reports. Older adults with nerve damage and kidney stress, but pristine glucose labs. In 2022, the Journal of Metabolism published a paper that shook the field. Researchers proposed that a new class of metabolic dysfunction was unfolding, one driven not by blood sugar alone, but by deeper cellular errors in how the body uses energy. Mitochondrial dysfunction, systemic inflammation, malfunctioning hormonal signals. Not just the presence of glucose, but the body's confusion over what to do with it. Since then, the term type 5 diabetes has been cautiously used in professional circles. It's still not formally recognized, not yet, but behind closed doors, top medical teams are watching it closely. And if current trends continue, we may be on the verge of a metabolic crisis that traditional medicine is not prepared to face. Because if we can no longer trust the early warning signs, what else could we be missing? Right now, an estimated 4 to 6 million people worldwide may be living with undiagnosed type 5 diabetes, and they have no idea. They pass their yearly blood tests. Their glucose levels? Normal. Their doctors? Reassuring. And yet, they feel exhausted after small tasks. They wake up with aching joints, swollen hands, or a strange buzzing in their feet. They gain weight in strange ways, or lose it without meaning to. Many are told it's just age, just stress, just life. But beneath the surface, their cells are malfunctioning, their energy systems unraveling, one mitochondrion at a time. Early studies suggest this condition disrupts the body's metabolic signaling, possibly triggered by chronic inflammation, environmental toxins, or immune system overactivation. In other words, the body forgets how to manage fuel. A meal doesn't bring energy, it brings confusion. Muscles stop responding. Organs slow down. Brain fog sets in. Some researchers even speculate a link between type 5 diabetes and unexplained cognitive decline in older adults, a terrifying possibility still under investigation. And here's the most alarming part. Standard diabetes screenings don't detect it. No red flags. No warnings. It slips under the radar until the damage is done. We're only beginning to understand how widespread this may be. Some hospitals are now using advanced metabolic panels, inflammatory markers, even cellular respiration tests, but these tools are not yet common. And for millions of people walking around right now, trusting that everything is fine, the danger may already be inside them. Here's the part no one saw coming. Type 5 diabetes may not be a problem of sugar, but of energy itself. According to recent metabolic studies, this new condition might stem from a failure in how our cells create and use energy, not how much sugar is in the blood, but how the body interprets and handles it on a microscopic level. One theory gaining traction: cellular energy miscommunication. Think of it like this. In a healthy person, insulin acts like a key, unlocking cells so glucose can enter and be used as fuel. But in type 5, the key still fits, and the door opens, but the engine inside is broken. The glucose enters, but nothing happens. No energy, no response, just silence. Some scientists point to damaged mitochondria, the power plants of our cells, as the root of this malfunction. Others believe the problem may lie in the intracellular signaling networks, a kind of electrical language between hormones, enzymes, and genes. What if that system gets scrambled? What if your body stops recognizing food as fuel and starts treating it as noise? The result? A body that feels starved, even when fed. Muscles shrink. Brain cells misfire. Organs slow. And yet, your blood work? Still normal. This turns decades of diabetes research on its head. And it raises chilling questions. Are we treating the wrong problem? Are millions living with a disease that current science doesn't even know how to measure? If glucose isn't the enemy, what is? In labs around the world, scientists are racing to understand what type 5 diabetes really is and how to fight it. At Stanford, researchers are using high-resolution cellular imaging to observe how mitochondria in diabetic patients behave under stress. What they've found is unsettling. In some individuals, energy production begins collapsing long before glucose levels change. It's like watching a city lose power one block at a time, while the electric meter still reads normal. At MIT, bioengineers are experimenting with metabolic fingerprinting, ultra-sensitive blood tests that go beyond glucose and insulin. These tests measure microchanges in ADP output, inflammatory cytokines, and even shifts in cellular oxygen use. It's early but promising. Meanwhile, AI-driven platforms at institutions like the Karolinska Institute in Sweden are analyzing millions of patient records to find hidden patterns, combinations of symptoms, lifestyle factors, and genetics that could predict who's at risk even before symptoms begin. There's also exciting work in the field of metabolomics, where entire biochemical pathways are mapped in real time, like tracking not just the food you eat, but every chemical reaction that follows. This kind of deep, data-driven science could unlock diagnostic tools that finally catch type 5 in its early stages. But for now, these technologies are mostly experimental, limited to research settings. Most clinics, especially for older adults, still rely on traditional glucose tests, which, as we've seen, may completely miss the mark. The future of diagnosis is changing fast, but the question remains, will the healthcare system move fast enough before this silent disease becomes the next global epidemic? Some scientists believe type 5 diabetes is the result of genetic vulnerabilities and chronic inflammation, but others are not so sure. A growing number of experts argue this condition may be the unintended consequence of our own technological progress. One theory points to ultra-processed foods and synthetic additives, substances our bodies were never designed to metabolize. Over time, they may interfere with cellular signaling, confusing the body's ability to process energy. Another hypothesis? Environmental overload. We're now exposed to thousands of chemicals daily, in plastics, cleaning agents, even the air we breathe. Some researchers warn that endocrine-disrupting compounds may be silently rewiring how our metabolism functions, molecule by molecule. And then there's a more controversial idea, that long-term use of glucose-lowering medications in borderline cases may be weakening the body's natural regulatory systems. Could our own treatments be overcorrecting, teaching the body to become dependent, even dysfunctional? Not everyone agrees. There are fierce debates in the medical community. Some say we're overcomplicating things, that this is just an extreme form of insulin resistance. Others argue we're missing something much bigger, a fundamental shift in how human biology responds to the modern world. And here's the chilling truth. Both sides may be right. Because the more we manipulate biology, the more fragile it seems to become. We've extended life, but at what cost? We've engineered convenience, but have we engineered dysfunction? Somewhere along the way, the balance tipped. And type 5 be our first warning sign that progress, without caution, always leaves a shadow. The reality is no longer theoretical. Around the world, millions of people, especially older adults, are suffering from symptoms that have no name, no diagnosis, no treatment plan. They are told they're fine, while their bodies slowly shut down. The fatigue, the muscle loss, the unexplained brain fog, it's not just uncomfortable. It's life-altering. Some lose their independence. Others fall into depression. In some nursing homes, entire wings are now filled with patients showing signs of what could be undetected metabolic collapse. Families watch their loved ones fade, while lab results insist nothing is wrong. And healthcare providers? Many are overwhelmed, still trained to treat diabetes as a numbers game. Glucose in, insulin out. But type 5 doesn't play by those rules. Its impact is spreading, not just through patients, but through the very systems we trust to protect us. Insurance companies deny coverage for deeper testing. Hospitals lack protocols. And global health organizations are only just beginning to notice. Behind the scenes, whispers of a metabolic shift are growing louder. Some call it the start of a new class of disease, one that could redefine how we understand aging, chronic illness, even human evolution. Because if the body no longer responds to energy the way it once did, we are facing more than just a new diabetes. We are facing a new human condition, one shaped by synthetic environments, altered food chains, digital overstimulation, and biochemical overload. A world we created that is now reshaping us. And like every great shift in history, it won't be fair. It won't be equal. And it won't be kind to those who are left behind. So now, we stand at a crossroads. The rise of type 5 diabetes isn't just a medical anomaly, it's a mirror. A reflection of how far we've pushed our biology and how little we've stopped to ask what it costs. We created a world of abundance, speed, stimulation, one where food is processed faster than thought, where chemicals outnumber nutrients, where rest is rare and stress is constant. And in return, our cells are faltering. Not because they're weak, but because they were never meant to function in this kind of environment. So the question is no longer just, how do we treat this? The question is, what kind of future do we want to survive in? Do we continue to engineer convenience at the price of health, patching one system while another breaks? Or do we stop, listen to the signals, and begin to rebuild our way of living? This isn't just about diabetes. It's about the invisible line between progress and self-destruction and whether we have already crossed it. The tools to fight this disease may exist: deeper diagnostics, cleaner environments, targeted nutrition, and perhaps even new therapies at the cellular level. But none of that matters if we choose denial over action, speed over balance. Humanity has always evolved through crisis. Maybe this is another turning point, one that doesn't demand more technology, but more wisdom. The choice is ours. Adapt to a world we created, or change the world before it changes us beyond recognition. Maybe you felt it yourself. the exhaustion that doesn't go away, even after a full night's sleep. The strange weight gain or loss that makes no sense. That buzzing in your feet, that cloud in your mind, that quiet voice telling you something isn't right. And maybe your doctor told you you're fine. Maybe your labs came back clean. But deep down, you know your body better than anyone. And maybe now, after hearing this, it finally makes sense. This isn't a story from some distant future. It's happening now, quietly, invisibly. And yes, it could happen to you, to someone you love, to any of us. That's why I had to share this. Not to scare you, but because no one's talking about it loud enough. And if we stay silent, more people will suffer without knowing why. That's the real danger. Maybe type 5 diabetes is rare, or maybe we've just never learned how to see it. But we can't fight what we refuse to name. So tell me, have you ever felt symptoms doctors couldn't explain? Do you know someone who's normal on paper, but struggling in real life? I want to hear your story. Drop it in the comments. Let's not keep this in the dark anymore. Because at the beginning of this story, we thought type 5 was just an anomaly, a glitch. But maybe, just maybe, it's the first sign of something much larger. A system breaking. Or evolving. Either way, the next step? It starts with you. Hit like, subscribe, and stay curious, because the truth is never where we expect to find it. It's always hiding in plain sight.